Oh yeah, party people. Welcome to Unit 5. We are talking about measurement. Um, this is normally a really interactive unit. This is where we go out and we take this sheet of paper that you see in front of you right here, this one right here. We cut it up and we glue it from end to end. You'll see it goes up to like 250 here and then 260 all the way up to 500 and then 510 all the way up to 1,000. Um, And we would use this as a meter stick, 1 meter long. It's similar to the rulers that you see in teachers' classrooms, those big long wooden ones. And we would start off the unit by measuring things. Unfortunately, we're stuck here. And so I'm going to talk about this ruler right here, really, really important, and some conversions. So before we start, I want to tell you that the world outside the United States uses a different measuring system. And honestly, this measuring system makes a lot more sense. Things fit into boxes. You have numbers that stay within tens. And what I mean by that is that things organize much easier. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. This whole ruler, when you cut it out and straighten it out, is 1 meter long. You will see down here, let's see if I can get us to move it up. Hold on one quick second. You'll see right down here. Perfect. All right. You'll see this is an M. This M stands for meter. It is the basic unit of measuring length in the metric system. Length is how long something is. And you'll notice there is no 1 for the M until all the way over here. We can imagine that there is a little M right here, a little M right here, and a little M right here. And you'll notice the only time we have 1 whole meter is when you cut these out and line them up side by side. A meter is, if you take your arms and you stretch them out as wide as you can, a meter is probably about as long from one fingertip to the other. You'll notice that right over here, the first unit of measurement is a millimeter. Mil in Spanish, 1,000. A millimeter means that there are 1,000 of these in 1 meter. So you'll see this right here, this 10, that line coming down from the ruler, is actually 10 millimeters. These little lines right up here, all by themselves, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, those are 5 millimeters. All the little dashes that you see along here are millimeters. This is 20 millimeters. Here's another 10 millimeters. Here's 30 millimeters. If we were to line this up, this over here would be 260. And if you'll notice, at the 1 meter button right here, there's 1,000 meters. Underneath that 10-meter line, you'll see is a 1. And this one is for centimeters. Again, it's really useful to know Spanish because centi is like cien. There are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. You'll see down here, this is where we would see millimeters up here. Underneath it, you would see centimeters. cm, centimeters. And you'll notice all the way over here, we get to 100 centimeters is the same distance as 1 meter. So we have millimeters, which are the smallest unit. We have centimeters, and there's 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. 10 millimeters, you'll see, in 1 centimeter. There are 50 millimeters in 5 centimeters. Each centimeter is 10 millimeters long. Okay. This is really important, and I'm going to show you a chart that kind of breaks it all down and shows you step by step the measuring. The next unit of measurement is decimeters. And that's what DM stands for, decimeters. Decimeters you won't hear used very often. I'll be honest with you, unless you're in a math class or you're doing some pretty specific math, You won't really use decimeters that much, but it's important to understand. Decimeter, the word deci is like 10. There are 10 decimeters. 10 decimeters in 1 meter. 10 decimeters in 1 meter. You think about it, 1 decimeter right here has how many centimeters? 10 centimeters. And inside that, it's 100 millimeters. So you'll notice it's all by tens, right? 1, 10, 100. Down here, when we get to the whole meter, 1 whole meter is 10 decimeters, it's 100 centimeters, and it's 1,000 millimeters. This is really important to understand, and we're going to practice it. It does take time. I do want to show you another page, and this page is really helpful. I'm going to close this out, and it's here. And this page you can actually find inside your math books. Now, all we've been talking about is this side right here. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger. We've been talking about this side. We talked about meters and all the things smaller, right? We talked about millimeters, which is the smallest unit. We talked about centimeters, which is a little bit bigger. And we talked about decimeters. The main measurement is going to be meters. So when you go small, you go to decimeters. That's 10 times smaller. There are 10 decimeters in 1 meter. Then we go to centimeters. There's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. That's 100 times smaller. And then millimeters. There's 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. That is 1,000 times smaller than a meter. You also need to remember exactly how the abbreviations look for each one. Decimeter, centimeter, and millimeter. Okay? And when you're thinking about millimeters, I want you to think about the tiniest things. So let's go really quickly. Let's look back. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. Some of your homework is going to ask you, what is something that is the size of a millimeter? That's this tiny, tiny bit small right here. What are some things you know that are that size? What are some things that are as big as a centimeter? What are some things that are as big as a decimeter? And then what are some things that are as long as a meter? And it's a little tricky, but I want you to use your books. I want you to be careful with it. And I want you to figure that out. The last thing I want to mention, and for now, I'm not going to talk about all of them. When we're talking about bigger units, so if we said 1 millimeter, 1,000 millimeters is 1 meter. If we talk about big, long distances, so if we are going to travel, we're probably going to use kilometers. So a kilometer, kilo, is the prefix. Kilo means 1,000. So 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer. 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer. That is the biggest unit that they have in the metric system. And again, it's really important to know. We will talk about hectometers and decameters a little bit later. But kilometers you would use to measure if you are driving somewhere or you are flying on a plane. Millimeters you would measure maybe the size of something that's super tiny. You would probably measure your pencil in centimeters. Maybe how long your foot is or how long your pinky is. You would not measure that in kilometers. Kilometers are long distances. There are, let's see, in a 5K race, a 5-kilometer race, I believe there's just about 3 miles in 5 kilometers. I hope this helps. I am going to assign a little bit of work today. Please use this chart in your book. And please go and look at the rulers in your book. They will make it much easier so you'll start to understand the actual size of things. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unit 5, Measurement.